Today we're going to talk about scenarios, pre-made scenarios, especially ours, and why you should buy them.
First thing that we should buy them is because they are ours and we need to sell them. The second thing is we have a bunch of them. These are just the mine scenarios. These are hers, and we have some more.
From other people? Well, I think I have mine,
yes.
some more that are not here.
Yeah, there's a few for
Yeah.
vigilantes and a couple of others for other things. So we have a lot of scenarios at our
yes, we like
store.
writing them.
Yes.
I like writing them. So do you.
And I also like writing scenarios and settings. It's my favorite stuff. But people usually don't like to buy scenarios, and I understand that. So let's talk a little bit about why people don't like to spend their money in pre-made adventures, and why maybe in some cases they should probably they should give it a try and just take a look and check if you don't really need them, or maybe you can find a use for them. Okay, so myself, my own story about adventures, pre-made adventures. When I started game mastering, I tried using pre-made stuff. It didn't go that well in the 90s. There was lots of pre-made stuff that was very railroady. Just a bunch of events that were triggered by the previous event, and you had to move along the people along all that stuff. I remember for Call of Cthulhu, for example, it was those scenarios weren't really good, and they had that railroading built into it.
Whatever you did, it didn't matter because the story would be the same.
It would be the same, and it's also a problem because if the game master is following it and he hasn't prepared anything, and suddenly people decide, we're not going to do that.
Scenario.
Yeah, they break the scenario. Others aren't really that railroady, but they are still like a bunch of characters, just stats mostly, and a few examples of scenes, and then there's nothing gluing all that.
There's no world.
Yeah, there's no world. So that's why, I guess why I started writing my own things, and possibly why I started writing them the way I did. That's probably what.
And that's one of the reasons why you think people should buy them. And another thing I'll say, because I know, especially in the OSR, there's a lot of people that say, oh no, we don't need a story. And maybe if you're just playing a dungeon and just rolling random rooms, if you don't want to go into why you are in the dungeon, when you go to other types of games, if you're playing an Epoch or a Call of Cthulhu game, this is an investigation. If you're playing horror, or even if you're playing something that is science fantasy or science fiction, unless you are in a dungeon that is kind of a spaceship or a lab, you kind of need a story, because you cannot just, maybe for something that is space opera, you can just roll on random tables for planets.
I guess you can always roll, but if you
for
have something prepared.
For our story, it will be, for an horror story, can you, contemporary horror, if you just go into roll, you may end up with a story that has a lot of holes and makes no sense.
Yeah, there's that problem, yes. Instead of rolling it probably would be better to just improvise. But that's just me. Well, anyway, the way we write our scenarios is not like a scenario. So not like a group of events linked together to tell you a story or to explain a mystery or whatever. What we do is more like building a micro setting, a very small setting that could be taking place in a city or a small town or just a building or whatever. But there's a micro setting, and then in that micro setting there are places that you might visit or not. They are there. There may be a background, and there are characters who have their own stories and their own backgrounds and their own interests and their own lives, and then there's something. There are events that can happen or they might not happen. It depends. Of course, there's always something. Being a scenario, there's something that is supposed to happen anyway, and
there's a bigger plot that is taking place, but that in parallel, let's say.
But besides that, we always have several things that might happen, and if for some reason your players screw up all the main quest, you'll have other stuff to do. So you don't just throw away the book because it's done. Because it won't be done like that.
And another thing, because in my case, you wrote a lot of settings, I wrote smaller things, so I've tried in some cases to do scenarios that are a little bit more fixed, especially when I try to write investigative ones.
Mm-hmm. Those require more structure.
You need a structure because if you're investigating, you need to. But what I always try to do is that to leave the end a bit. Or very open-ended. There are very ways that the mystery can end. Normally that's one I prefer, but I suggest others. Or sometimes I say to end an explosion. I like that. I lost my train of thought. The thing is, this is not
there's some structure, but
exactly,
not absolutely.
exactly. So it is written in a way that I don't like this part of the story. I will just ignore it.
So let's give some examples. This one was one of the first, I think, from the Red Room. This one wasn't published before, but it was probably started before. In this case, this is the zombie scenario. I guess it's more common for zombie scenarios to be open-handed and sandbox style, but mine is the same as the rest that we do. So there's a resort, that's the one in the title. There's a bunch of characters. NPCs and possibly pre-gens as well, and basically you have things that might happen or might not happen. The characters have their own agendas, and just throw the zombies in and it's done. Now this one is not quite a scenario. It's called Void Haven Outpost. This could be a scenario or not, and this is one of those. This one is not exactly a micro setting. This is a mini setting, I would call it, because this is a space station where things are happening. Lots of things are happening. The station has a story, the station has a style, several characters that are described. There are factions in here.
Well, that one is a setting. That one I wouldn't even call it a scenario.
Yeah, well, but that's why I showed it now, because this is the example. This is this is the way I build an adventure. Even if in this case it's not really an adventure, but there are some, and I'm going to show, for example, this one here, all bets are off. This one is more, this one is closer to a scenario than this one, but it was built
because
exactly
it's a smaller setting.
Same. Yeah.
That's what makes it.
This is a city, but there's a story going on here. There's a conflict between, so this is a new Flash thing. This is cyberpunk in this case, because it takes place in Lisbon. New Flash is more biopunk than cyberpunk, but Lisbon is a backwater city, so it's less developed. They use lots of cyber technology, and it's a gambling city where there are several casinos. Each casino belongs to a different faction, and they are having a kind of a war. Well, they are in a Cold War, but there's one specific faction that wants to overthrow the others. So the characters will, by default, be called in by that faction to help. So there's an overarching story here. But that's just it. There's no specifics. They will begin a war. There are plot hooks for that, obviously. But there are no specifics besides that. So, and there's a whole city to explore.
You're going to do all of yours and then I'll do all of mine?
You can start yours.
It's better, because if not, I'm not going to talk about all of them because mine are smaller. So, but I'm going to start with this one as an example. In Sanatorium was one of the first ones that I wrote that was not for fantasy. So this is a setting, a very small one. So it's a Sanatorium and Spa Resort. This is for Epoch. So there is, so if you have a place of the sanatorium, different places, different characters that are there, and a lot of plot hooks. So there is a story, a major plot going on. That is the sanatorium is being run by cultists that want to summon. I forgot his name now.
They want to summon Azathoth?
Yes, Azathoth. Yes, they want to summon. They want to summon Azathoth, and the characters find themselves in the sanatorium, and they can start to investigate and see that something is not quite right there. But there's a lot of other plot hooks going on. So I guess when we played, people were more interested in the other plot hooks, and I was trying. Well, I just gave up to make them.
I guess that's something that we should say about this. We have run each other's scenarios, and even though I did the layout and the editing, I played them. Well, that's also because I have a bad memory, but that's not just that. I didn't know most things that were happening. I knew the characters, but I didn't know what was going to happen and what they were going to do.
Especially even because of the plot hooks. The other thing is that a lot of the plot hooks are open.
Yeah.
So there are small plot hooks, or even they're not going to say how things end. They're not going to say how things develop. I'll just say, there is a monster, a spirit of the baby inside of the walls.
So of course, I'm not suggesting that you should read first and then play as a player. That probably wouldn't work if you have a good memory. But still, I think it's a good example. Things are so open-handed that even in the cases I remembered, I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew the character had some kind of secret, but I might even know the secret. I would know, of course, the character didn't, but I didn't know what was going to happen.
I think sometimes, in my case, because I proofread some things that Miguel writes, and exactly the same. I have a vague, and then suddenly in the middle I was remembering something happened. I was like, haha moment. But of course I kept my mouth shut, not ruin it to the other players. Well, I can also show this one. This one is a bit different, also called Hard Canyon. So this is for country, of course. This is for basically a one-shot. So it takes place in one small town. So here again you have places, so you have locations, you have characters, but it's supposed to take place in one night, and the town has been taken over by the spirits. Evil spirits, but still it's open. This is one of those that is open-handed, and the way it ends, well, I gave a proposition of how the people can defeat the spirits and survive, but well, that's just a suggestion.
This here is my most structured scenario, and you can check it out because it's free. If you are watching this, if you know us, you probably already downloaded it. It's probably, I believe this is the thing that was most downloaded. It has been free for a long time, since Drive-Thru censored it. So if you have checked this one out, you have seen the most structured scenario I wrote, and it's not that structured. But this one, it's a crime mystery, so it's kind of there are some things that will happen. People will die, and you can avoid some of the deaths if you banish the demons, for example. But except that, the first death will always happen. But the first death is supposed to happen even before the characters get involved, so it's just background story. From then on, the deaths might happen or not, the characters might be involved or not. We have run this more than once, and things happen differently, and I'm sure we could...
Even I played the same character twice, and things happen completely different.
Yeah, so it's possible. We can prove that because we played it, and you can probably check it. I'm not sure, but not everything we play is on the channel, but most things are now. So you can find it there. Even though this is a murder mystery, or kind of not exactly a murder mystery, it's a mystery about a supernatural mystery. It's still open-ended enough, and the characters, you can kill them in different ways and in different timelines. So you don't have to kill the same ones in order. You can just... And there are side plots that can be used to distract the characters and to create red herrings for them. So you can proceed with yours.
Okay, I'm gonna go with another one. Well, this one, epic. This one, although it's small, it's a small setting. So, well, epic is the name. This is for space, and this is takes
Unshalt,
as yes, and
Unshalt,
Shalt,
it's
yes,
Alpha Blue, right? Yeah.
yes, Alpha Blue, Shalt. So this was done for the Jam last year. I think it was last year.
Yeah, I think it was last year.
Yes.
Yes.
So, Epic is the name of the spaceship that the characters would arrive, because the default idea is that they will be Ratchet Legionnaires, but they don't really have to be, because all the adventure takes place in a station, Theta Blue, so it's a knockoff of Alpha Blue. So what you got here is all the locations and characters in the station, so once again a small setting and a lot of plot hooks and also some tables of events. Of course, there is a story, especially in this case to make it to connect it. So there is a plot about the additions in the crystal, but once again, when we played it, that ended up being secondary to the story. It was just the thing that took the players into the station. And took them out.
And that cover
in the
is
end.
still not bad, even though it was made with AI a long time ago. For some reason, that
And it was an accident, right? In this one.
Yeah. No, I didn't. It was supposed to be something else. Yeah.
Oh, and the space station, of course, Theta Blue, it's a brothel.
Yeah.
A brothel in space. I'm going to show another one. Well, now this World of Bastards, this is an anthology of the first scenarios that I wrote. So the first two, and one that is new. Daughters of Darkness, and that one is Daughters of Darkness. Actually, I think it was the first one to be published.
So, yeah.
Not the first one to be written, but the first one to be published.
Yes.
So this is again a small setting, because it's a location, the Var Valley, and the story is about two factions that are fighting among one another, and in the middle there is a bigger threat.
The priest, right? The priests against.
The priests against the daughters of Xenia. But there's actually a monster killing off the valley and feeding on people. And while they are fighting among each other, they don't know. Once again, I think this one is probably very, very open. It probably doesn't seem like when you see the idea of the story, but it was written in a very unstructured way. The Sound of Madness, the same thing. So the idea is that this is all related to the Wretched Bastards, that now it's inside the book. That is also a setting. So the Sound of Madness takes place like 20 years before Bastards. And in the mountain, in the Orc Mountain. So the characters are lost in the mountains, and they're being attacked by orcs. Once again, this seems very structured, but it isn't, because this is just basically made with some locations, plot hooks, and random tables for things that can happen. The only thing that I have here, because it's called the Sound of Madness, so there's a sound, so there's a machine echoing in the mountains, and the characters may go crazy if they don't find the source soon enough. But of course, it's only optional if people don't want to use it. And this one has a new one that is the Little Bastards. That is a very sweet, that takes place, it's the name of our youngest cat, the Little Bastard. But it just takes place in the Nyx Wizards Tower. So once again, it's a small setting, because it's a location, and everything else, it's just suggestions of what can or cannot happen. And the enemies are, how do I call it? Homunculus. I was going to call them the other name.
Those are the Little Bastards.
Yes, the Little Bastards are homunculus that have taken control of the tower. So you can do another one.
Okay, this is one of those that isn't exactly a scenario, but it can be. This was meant to be an adaptation of Ratchet Epoch to Portugal. So you have Lisbon in the Ratchet Epoch, and we have several ideas here to play something, but it works exactly the same way as the other thing. So that you have information, you have places, you have characters, and you have plot hooks.
I'm trying to pick up what is the one I want to talk about. Oh, we can two more for Epoch. I think the Epochs are the ones that are big. It makes sense.
That one.
We never played this one.
And I've already did
A version with a better cover.
But
yes.
I can't find it. I don't know.
So,
maybe I didn't order it.
Now, this one, The Bastard King and Occult Blood, they don't really have a setting because they are for Epoch, so Paris is the setting. So they are a bit, well, this one is a bit of an investigative adventure. So there's an epidemic of madness in Paris, and the characters are called to investigate. But then the investigation is a list. They will find a list of names of people of interest, and the idea is that they will follow them. And in each location, something may or may not happen, and they will be on the trail of the Bastard King. This one also has not. I'm trying to remember if it has. Yes, it has a possible way to end, to ban the Bastard King. That is, of course, again a demon. Now, this one, Occult Bloods. I wrote this because I wanted something that would feature the vampire in Paris. So this is people are not supposed to play vampires, though they can if they want to. They should be younger vampires, but they will be working for the vampires in the default. So there's a war among two vampire factions. One that is I love factions against one another. You see, it's a plot that works well.
It makes it easier for this kind
exactly.
of
it makes it easier for an open because people can choose what is the side that they want to take. So you have the progressive vampires and the conservative vampires. So they are in a bit of a cold war. The progressive vampires are seducing the younger ones.
They are progressive, but in the 19th century.
Yes, in the 19th century.
So they are hedonists
and they don't want to live in the shadows and.
No, they don't want to die in the shadows.
They don't want to die in the shadows, exactly. They don't want to live in the sun. No, nobody sparkles here. Meanwhile, the head of the conservative vampires and the most powerful vampire disappears, and nobody knows what happened to him.
Okay, that's the one of mine now. So, Umbra, this is a conspiracy, also taking place in Portugal. It's a mystery kind of has some inspiration in the several things by Umberto Eco, especially Foucault's Pendulum. Again, there's that conspiracy going on, but there's several factions. The characters can be related to one of them or not. They can just be outsiders. There are locations, there are characters. There are some events that are described, there are different plot hooks, and there are some clues in this case, but the clues can be found by whatever order you find them, and anyway it's not relevant. You might not even find the clues, because you can just say that it's everything is silly or something like that. So what's important here is the relationships between the characters and the factions. Not really what is happening, that's secondary as usual, and you can just use the tables that are here to create other events and other stuff. This is where the conspiracy generator was first developed.
Well, I'm going to go to talk about these two now.
This one is also one
yes,
that covers done a long time ago, but it was still weird.
So these two are a bit different because also I write mostly scenarios, of course. I don't have time to write settings, so I've kind of been experimenting with different types, but still trying to keep that sandbox that we do. So these are both dungeons, because I think this one can be called a dungeon. It's a virtual dungeon. Yeah. So this is for Bastards and this is for New Flesh. So let's start with the Temple of Flesh. So this is a structure, a temple that appears suddenly in the forest, and creatures come out and start to drag the poor elves inside. inside the Temple of Flesh. Well, it's called the Temple of Flesh because it's, well, I'm not going to say literally, but kind of literally made of flesh. It's a construction of the Devourer, that is the evil guy in the Wretched, the big evil guy. So inside of here there is a dungeon, but that is not structured like this. So there are 7 levels. Each level is ruled by a demon, a Malakoda. That is a demon.
That's where they were introduced, and
Yes.
these guys are going to have a big role in the next game, Darker. Different, they will
yes,
be different in this
they're
case.
not going to be so.
They
Idea
are
is
larger demons in,
yes.
in the other case.
So each will have each of them is associated to one of the 7 sins. So this dungeon has 7 levels, and in each level there are maps. So this is hype. Hype is envy.
Envy, yes.
Exactly. So in the end, this is 7 different dungeons. The idea is that the characters will, with tables, of course. Some of them have encounters fixed. Others have tables. The order that they are supposed to be played is random, and if they survive the 7 levels, they will get to an 8th room. And regarding of what happens there, they can escape or not, forever be consumed by the Devourer. But what I say is it's a bit of a different dungeon, is that it doesn't have a whole of a map. So it's 7 places, 7 dungeons in the same adventure. This one, it's a bit the same, so there was no map for this one. Diablo's Ex Machina, it's a virtual game that went wrong. So people are pulled into the virtual world and they are tortured by apostles of pain. So in this case, there are tables for selecting the tortures and what people will find in the virtual game, and monsters, virtual demons created by Incubus. But there is no map, so it's a weird type of dungeon. I think everybody hated this one, but I had fun doing it.
Maybe. I'm going to talk about this, and then you can
talk about the
introduce
free one.
Sister Pride,
Yes.
which is basically a sequel. I don't know. This one was the first one. It was still published by Postmortem Studios. It's not quite the same thing because this is a little bit larger than the first one, than the first version, I guess we can call it that. It was meant to be more like a giallo the first time. Then I developed other things that you can play that are not quite that giallo. Again, there's a location, in this case that's a convent. There's a bunch of characters from different, we can call it factions, even though they aren't quite factions. The nuns, the priests, reporters, the cops, and a group of thieves. And in practice, this is basically not just one, but 2 larger adventures, and then a bunch of plot hooks in the middle. So there's in the convent there's something happening that can be supernatural or not. The nuns believe it's supernatural, it might not be. That's up to the game master to decide. The priests are sent from the Vatican to investigate that. The reporters will be interested because there are the strange things that are happening involve one or more deaths. And then there's another story that is related to the only to the nuns and the thieves. The nuns need something, which is a painting, to use in their ritual. Never mind if the ritual works or not, they want the painting because they believe it works. And they're going to hire the thieves, which they have a relationship with them.
They have relationships with everybody. They are very
well, but not.
giving.
I was not thinking about those relationships. Just they have a business relation, because they are sinful nuns, so they take drugs and other things. So the thieves, well, they are not exactly thieves. They are thieves and conmen and other stuff. And so they will help them with the painting thing, and that's another story, a different thing. We played it recently, just that part.
But it's no. We actually played the two, right? Because we played
we
the story.
yes. Yeah.
We played the story of the. We were playing the story of the nuns and the priests.
Yeah.
Then we ended, and then.
There was a.
Then there was a one shot that we played the heist, actually, I think, and then there's another thing because we were playing a campaign with. I think the group was a little bit different when we did it.
I don't remember.
That we were jumping into the beyond.
Yeah.
I think it was with Beelzebub and Combs. And we ended up in the Covenant. Mm-hmm. And so we had recently with Combs, been there and then we came back.
Yeah,
and that's a part. I'm sorry, this sounds silly, but the part that was funny is that it was like we were coming back in the middle of the story that we were playing before, and we completely destroyed what we had been playing before.
So this proves that you can use this for other stuff. You don't even if you don't want to play this story here, you can use it as a background
the setting.
Story.
Yeah, the setting is interesting.
Maybe years later, you can pick up the story in a different way without the nuns, just with.
And you have Lisbon also.
This is not just as usual. This is a small setting that talks about Lisbon in the 70s, in the late 70s, and what was happening then. So it has some background story as well.
And then we can take it to this one. So Sister Pride, that is 90, and this is free during Pride month. So I wrote this last year for Pride because I wanted to be offensive. This has a bit is a follow-up of the nun. Sister Pride is one of the nuns in the Sisters of the Seven Sins. She is trans.
Well, at the time it wasn't called trans.
Yes.
It was just transsexual. Yes.
Or a tranny. We're gonna get cancelled from YouTube. So this is in the 90s. Sister Pride is no longer a nun. She's a madam. So this is a red herring because she's not really important in the story. The idea is for people to think he is our killer, but she isn't. So you have an update on Lisbon in the 90s because I think it was the time before that Lisbon was growing, but it was still really gritty and a hellhole, and there was a lot of drugs and prostitution and crime. But things hadn't become woke. That came later. So you have a lot of locations, scandals that were taking place at the time, and then you have the story itself. You have characters. So the story is inspired about a real case that happened in Portugal. So the known psycho in Portugal. So it was called the Lisbon Ripper. He killed like 3 people and then disappeared, and nobody ever discovered who he was. So in this story, the characters are going to investigate the story of the Lisbon Ripper, and that is connected to Sister Pride. I'm not gonna say anymore because it's free, and you can get it for free, and I don't want to give spoilers.
Let's go back to one of those old ones, Orpheum Loves, and this is one that is very much the structure of all the others, the basics of this, because this one was written, the original scenario was written in the early 2000s for my group, and so this is basically a building. It has some inspiration in several things, among them Dario Argento's Inferno and other stuff. This one is the one that is really jello. So there's a building, there's people in the building, they are described, there are relations, this very detailed if you want to go the soap opera style, because it's basically the story of a group of friends that lives in the same building. There are other people there, of course, and those are also described. So this is very much the style for the mini setting or the micro setting. The building is very detailed, the characters are very detailed, and you don't have to know the stories of everything. You can just check it when the characters appear. And we did something with this, like we never know who the killer was. So there's a killer defined here, chosen for this, because this is a giallo story. So there's a killer, and there's a murder, and then there's a killer. That's the beginning of things. But we played it in a different way. We played it several times with different characters, and the killer was never the same.
Yes.
And not just that, I only decided who the killer was after we were playing already. So, depending on, I might choose the one that people are suspecting, or just the opposite. It depends. And then just, well, of course, I decided, but I'll put clues in there anyway.
That you don't follow.
That you don't follow, yes. Or film lofts.
Okay, well, I'm not going to talk a lot about this one because this is a small one. So, Tainted Conception. I wrote this for Christmas. Yes, I love thematic scenarios. This is simply a Christmas party at the Nakatomi Tower. So, it is very, very simple. So, what you have here is a Christmas party at the Nakatomi Towers.
Not the ones in
Die
Hard.
No, not the ones in Die Hard. There's
a Nakatomi Tower
in Avalidad. So the party will be invaded by terrorists that are not real terrorists. And what we have here is the list of PCs at the party, the list of terrorists, and then a lot of random events that can take place during the siege. And the idea is that the characters should try to defeat the terrorists and save the world. How they will do it, well, that is for them to decide.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Okay, the memorial, which is also an old one, and again the same thing. In this time it's an hospital. This one is inspired by Lars von Trier's Riget and the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It takes place in an hospital, especially the psychiatric ward, or the neurology ward as well. There are several things happening there. There's an introductory adventure in this one that can be used as a start. But anyway, this is not really an adventure in a straightforward way. Mm-hmm. The adventure is that the hospital is a strange place, and there are strange things happening. It depends which kind of characters you are playing. It can play in a different way. If you are playing characters that are patients, for example, it will probably be a smaller thing, like a one-shot. If you're playing the doctors, you can go several ways at the same time, but the end thing is that's a very strange place, and there's a story behind it, and that's probably, if you want to turn it into an adventure that has some connection, there's a backstory for this, and that will tie the different things that are strange and possibly supernatural. And also there's a smaller adventure that serves as introductory scenario, and that one can lead into this after. But it's, as usual, a bunch of characters, a bunch of situations, plot hooks, tables for things, and the place, which is very detailed in this case. It's the hospital, of course.
So this one, it's one of my favorites. I don't think I got to run it yet, but this is one of my favorites. So the Celluloid Killer. I love thrillers. So this was my first try to write an adventure that was an investigative thriller with nothing supernatural. So this is not a setting because this is supposed to take place in Emmettville. This is connected to Wretched Darkness, and Emmettville is already described in the setting. So the characters are supposed to be police detectives investigating a murder. Now, the way how this is structured, I still believe that it can be opened enough. So you have different crime scenes. You have different, of course, you're going to have clues at the crime scenes that are placed in a way to make sure that the characters discover it, even if they don't. To see that they will be able to still get to the next clue, because that's the worst thing when you have this type of scenarios and you don't find a clue, so you are stuck. I don't think this happens here. It was written in a way that the clues will help you, but even if if they don't discover it, other things will happen. So there are characters here that are supposed to be suspects that will get involved in in the investigation. So there's a bit of red herrings, and then there is another thing because this was the satellite killer, and so the killer is killing people inspired in films, and that is the thing that's, let's see if the players will realize or not. So if the players realize that, then the characters can discover it, so it will make it a little bit easier to follow the clues. But because this is the idea is that the killer is imitating the films, so there is a crew in town doing shooting a film that is inspired on sexual holocaust. Considering that what that really happened, so that they were real events. So they are shooting a B movie, so based on that. And then here you have another way to play this. So forget the part of you're not the police. You are part of the movie crew, and it's a bit like Scream. You'll have the killer killing people on set. So we have actually two different ways to play this. And in the end, I couldn't resist. Although this was supposed to be no supernatural, I put it an option that maybe the Apostles of Pain appear and start killing everybody.
Okay, now the thing that started everything,
You're gonna take a long time with that one.
In different ways. This was of several scenarios that I wrote for me and for my group years ago, and which were adapted later to first to Postmortem, then for the bedroom. So this was the first one of those, and it was while writing Welcome to St. Cloud that I developed this kind of style of doing a location, in this case St. Cloud, a group of characters, in this case a very large group of characters. This is not quite a small one. I can't call this an adventure because this would be more like I wouldn't say even a micro setting. This would be a mini setting. Mm-hmm. Though there is an adventure in here, if you want to have an adventure here, the adventure is here, and it starts a little bit like Twin Peaks, because obviously that is the inspiration. Even though I crossed it over with John Carpenter's The Fog. So this town here is a mix of Twin Peaks and I think it's Antonio Bay, but I'm not sure about that.
In this case, it's Lynch Bay.
Yeah, it's in this case. Well, in Twin Peaks, it's not called Twin Peaks; it's called St. Cloud. So there are characters in those two places. So it's a city or a town. I mean, it's a town that is located near the ocean. So it has forests as well. So you have the part that is Twin Peaks and the part that is the fog. They are close by, but they are separated, still separated. You have in here a bunch of different plot hooks and different ways of picking this up. There are many things happening at the same time. Besides that, many characters have secrets, or almost every character has a secret. And the secrets, some of them have nothing to do with the rest. They're just secrets, like characters in Twin Peaks. They are strange. So some of those secrets are supernatural, some are not at all. You can even play them all as supernatural or all as non-supernatural. They could be just strange quirks. I'll probably go back to this soon. This is like the kind of thing that you can pick up several times. We have played this with different groups, at least. Well, I did run this with different groups at least 4 times or 5 maybe, and I can still go back. Of course, this is mine, so it's a different thing. But even if some other person used it, I think it could be. For starters, you could play this for years. We did play this for years, a couple of years, and just this, nothing else, without having to come up with something else. Just using what's in this book. We played for 2 years, and at the time we were playing regularly, so it was not every week, but almost. So for 2 years we played what's in the content here, And well, there's more content now than there was before.
That's what I was thinking.
This was the original, but this is not the original anymore. The one in Postmortem was basically the original, just adds a few more details. But this one adds some more stuff. So I guess this could be played for, I don't know, 3 years maybe, without having to come up with lots of stuff. Of course, it depends on the kind of players you have, the kind of game master you are. If you spend many time with conversations and letting people just role play. Of course, if you don't do that, maybe we have to cut that into 6 months, maybe perhaps. If you play it really fast, but still 6 months is not a bad thing for a book. And this is the last one I have here.
So this is the last one that I have here. Darker. It's going to be strange to talk about this one,
because
especially because the title. There's a game coming with this title.
And the cover is not that, but there's some similar stuff because it's the spirit is more or less the same.
Yes, exactly. So this is a strange one. So I wanted to write something for Darkness that was really horror and would come a bit with our main themes, some of our factions, and the idea of the Devourer. That actually I think it was first introduced in Epic. I'm not sure. I think it was
Devourer. I think.
Yes, I think it was in Epic, and then it was it took place in Wretched Darkness. But I think it was for Epic or for I don't know. I don't even remember. The concept started to be developed. Yes, I think it started.
Will be one
so this is not a setting again because this is supposed to take place in Emmettville. So it's to be played with Wretched Darkness. But basically, this is a mixture of. Let me see how many. I think it's basically 3 different stories. This is a bit the idea. I took it from not only from the films or from the books. In which the characters are investigating 1 or 2 different stories. Well, it happens a lot in the noir, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, they are connected. So there are 2 events here that are fixed. That is the death of a character and the kidnapping of another one. So completely different, but in the end they are related. And again here I have 2 different factions fighting amongst each other. But we still have locations here, so I'm trying to see how much. 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, so different locations. So in the end, this is 4 small adventures that could be played as one-shots, but in this case they are all tied in together in a bigger one. And in this one, it took me a long time to write it, exactly to make sure that I could keep it sandbox and open-ended, because when you have an idea of tying up the stories together without creating a fixed, without doing railroading, is not that easy sometimes. We need to play this again. I think we only played it a couple of
you can play Darker in Darker.
Yes, I know we can play this one in Darker. You can use it exactly.
There are a few more that maybe
there are a lot
2
more.
or 3. No, yeah, I mean mine. I wrote also something Wretched this way comes, and
you have at least 3 missing from your side.
Yeah, and that one for Epoch, I can't remember the name of it. The one
from Hell. Not
from
Hell.
Not from Hell. No, but it's something like that. Those are small.
From something.
Yeah, those are really small ones.
In the Mouth of Hell.
Yeah, in the Mouth of Hell. So those are really small ones. So I didn't even bring.
They're
those.
not exactly.
Well, they are sandboxy kind of sandboxy, but those are just a small event that happens, and then so we can say that. No, that's not really.
So this is almost 1 hour video that nobody would watch.
Yeah,
this is not just to. I mean, it parted, of course, to talk about our scenarios again, but at the same time, a bit to try to refute that idea that if you're playing a story that is defined, it's bad. Well, first of all, you can have a story, but the story is not completely defined. You just how can I say, there's a higher level of story, but the details are not decided. Nothing is decided. How it, you have a beginning, you may have a middle, but how it ends is something that the players and the game master will build as they play.
And even if you don't want to play this as it is, you can just use the locations, for example, or the characters. I think I believe some people have done that. They browse the thing and then this character, I'm gonna use this character and that character and this situation here and this location here in this place, or I'm going to ignore everything else but I'll use St. Cloud, for example, or just the characters in St. Cloud but I put them in another city that is not St. Cloud, but I'm going to use the characters still, or the tables that are there.
Or you can just use St. Cloud to run anything. Another
Actually,
story.
It is made for that as well. As it is so described, it has so many details about. You could
run the fog there.
You could run the fog there.
Or a zombie apocalypse.
You can pick up something from there and use it here. For example, result of that it could be there. Well, of course, it wouldn't be that resort because that's a beach resort, a different kind of thing. So, but it could be a resort anyway. You can mix and match things easily. People have done it. Just use it as inspiration. If you buy it in PDF, they are not that expensive, so
I think you do it a bit yourself. And for example, when we're playing Epic, I came up with an idea. So I don't remember if they're in the book or not. I think not. Interdimensional zombies.
They are somewhere now, but
yes, they are. So that I came up with them while I was running it, but it's already was being edited, and then I used it in the scenario that I wrote for Paddy, and you put it in the list of monsters because I told you to add them. So that's the thing that happens to me a lot when I'm running something and I start having ideas, and I think that's why
lots of
the things are always referring to themselves.
Yes,
but that is our problem.
There are connections, obviously. We were working on these things at the same time, so there are always connections. So that means that even inside the books, you will find references to other stuff that you can just mix.
Yeah, and things that can be used in other books.
Yeah, or some of
or
them.
Other adventures.
Some of them have some recommendations to use in different timelines. I can't remember any particular example, but Sisters of Mercy, Sisters of Seven Sins, not Mercy. There are some paragraphs there, so as to adapt it to epoch or to something else. So some of them already have those notes built in there, so you can easily change stuff. So this is it. Almost 1 hour to convince you that scenarios.
Do you still have that promotion, the bundle of horror?
It's still there. Yes, you can still find the bundle of several stuff. I can't remember exactly which ones, but they are still there and much.
It's a bundle of joy.
Cheaper than it's a bundle of joy. Okay, so I think that's enough. No one's watching anyway, so okay.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.